I want to start off with the people who support this show. Matt W. bought us 2 coffees in the last week or so, and we now have 2 memberships. One with Jeff and the other with Mitzi L. Mitzi L has a membership with us every single month and goes to buymeacoffee.com/soberfriendspod. And if it's important for you to have this in the ear of the new guy or gal, you can also support the show by going to buymeacoffee.com/soberfriendspod. I want to talk a little bit about asking for help and accepting help. I think I'm better at this than I have been in a while, but it's still not the easiest thing. And I'll set this up because it's a non-sober reason that I asked for help, Steve, but it is asking for help. My wife was cleaning out all the brush in front of our house. It's very difficult to keep up with some of the chores, cutting the bushes and stuff, and it's gotten overgrown. And she decided I had enough, and she came out and started just pulling stuff and piling it up. And our neighbor across the street came over, and he keeps this immaculate yard and stuff. So I'm sure he was annoyed at how our house looked. But he recently retired, and he said, I'm bored. I need a project. So if you're willing, I'll come over and I'll price it out for you, but I'll do a project where we cover up the stones with fabric. We get the right stones put in the right amount, and that way you don't have to do some of this stuff. And as long as we can afford it, I'm going to accept his help because he's good with this stuff. But he's bored and he's tired of looking at our yard being nasty. But he would do the heavy legwork of what needs to be done, and we can help him install it.
Right.
And I hope we can afford it because this is a root cause fix that we won't have to come out here and just constantly pull all this crap out. But it's hard and it's uncomfortable accepting help.
Hey, Matt, good to be back with you. Asking for help is always a great topic for me. I think it's a great topic for a lot of people. Certainly with sobriety, one of the first things we got to do is one of the first things I thought about. Let me back up. When I got sober, after my relapse, I came back, and I was really cocky because I sort of had this foundation of. I knew what to do. So I was like, oh yeah, I got this licked again, right? After 10 months of drinking in my basement again. Oh yeah, I figured this all out. Like I was just telling this story the other day. Yeah, I'm 5 days sober and I got it all figured out.
Yeah.
And then I had a period, people would call it a spiritual experience. Mm-hmm. I call it a panic attack. Maybe it was a combination of both. But I came to the realization that I was an alcoholic and I didn't know how to fix it.
Right.
And I needed to ask for help, right? So that's the basis of this whole asking for help for us alcoholics. And I did. I went out and I've asked for help and I've accepted help. And I've done a lot of that in my life of sobriety. And it's interesting that you're talking about this because, listen, these are Cadillac problems, right? We're talking about, I remember years ago people talking about the difference between people who are food insecure or living paycheck to paycheck or in the city versus those in the suburb where exactly like you said, those of us in the suburb, we're worried about maybe how our yard looks and how our, lawn looks or, I washed my cars yesterday and then there's people out there that are worried about, how am I going to pay my electrical bills and stuff like that. Yep. But they are problems and they are stresses, right? And we talk about this all the time. And somebody says, somebody just said it Friday night. Yeah, they're Cadillac problems, but they are my problems. And that's the truth, right? And the truth is we drink over that. And I have the exact same problem going on in my house, Matt. I do. I have the exact same problem. I don't enjoy taking care of my yard. Like, I don't enjoy yard work. Some people do. They love their, that place to look perfect. I don't like it at all. I like the results of it.
Mhm.
I like it when it looks nice, but I don't like the maintenance and the all the time of going out there. And I was contemplating, like, I'm actually dressed right now to go outside and pull weeds because I need to do that, right? And I need to, and I don't like that. And people have asked me with my situation with my wife, because I've got a lot going on there. Hey, if you need, people say it all the time, if you need any help, let me know. And I think, what am I going to do? Call somebody up and say, I need your help to pull my weeds because I don't have time to do it? Like, I'm not going to do that, right? I'm not going to ask for that kind of, but it's a stressor to me that I think, I got to go out there. I went out there yesterday, and I was outside for 4 hours yesterday cleaning the car and then, doing stuff. And I can go out there for 4 hours again today and do stuff and still have 4 hours and 4 hours and 4 hours, right,
Yep.
on time to do. So I've started asking for help too, right? We have a small garden next to the pool, again, Cadillac problems, right? Garden next to a pool. And it needs some work. It needs some help. It needs some new plants. And there's a woman around the corner who does just like your neighbor. That's what she does. And I said, her name is Kathy. She goes by Kat. I'm like, Kat, you think you could come over and just walk through? And same thing. Walk through. And then, again, I'll pay her for it.
Yep.
Pick out some plants. She doesn't even have to plant.
Yep.
Just help me design, because I don't have those skills. Help me design. Tell me to do this. Maybe if I need some help pruning or something, like, I need that kind of help if I want my place. So I am starting to ask for more help like that too. So it's something that we have to do. And I talk about where you are in your life with kids at home, busy schedule. I mean, there's only so many hours during the day that you can take time to do certain things. And at this point, you got a lot going on with the kids, and it's hard to get through all those things.
I don't really have kids. I have 3 black holes that we throw money into. And it's just an insatiable suck.
Yeah. That's the truth. That's the truth.
That is part of the stress. Coming
is.
back from this trip from Orlando, we probably spent a ton of money, and I did everything I could not to. But so when we talk about Cadillac problems, I think this is worth talking about. It is worth saying the term Cadillac problems to put your problems in perspective, but not to dismiss them. Because you could always say somebody has it worse, which
Right.
is a sympathy thing, or you can acknowledge that whatever your problem is, it's real to you and it's painful to you, and that's empathy. Somebody may have problems paying for things. I remember when I was much younger, when I was much poorer, the stress I had with money back then. But it doesn't feel any different than the stresses I have now,
No.
which I would have begged for back then.
Yeah,
They
of
just
course.
are my problems today. And therefore they got to be dealt with. And however I feel them, they could be a trigger for relapse.
Absolutely. And here's the thing, right? And again, I'm not trying to be a psychologist here, but when I feel stress, I feel the same stress that I felt my whole life, right?
Yes.
You know what I mean? Like, my body and my brain deals with that stress in the same way. So even though the problems are different, I deal with that stress. And it's a little bit different. I've been able to manage that a little bit better, but I still feel it the same way. And that's why it's important for me to deal with my stresses. And here's the perfect example, is that one of the things that I talk about all the time is that when I go to meetings and I have shit on my mind and I have something going on, I put my stuff out there, like I do. And not everybody does that. And one of the guys I went to the Friday night meeting for the first time in probably 3 weeks because they just haven't been able to get away. And one of the guys said, he goes, and he just said it, and this just said, one thing I admire about Steve is Steve puts his shit out there. Like,
Yeah.
I do. I put my shit out there. And one of the things I've learned is that, so I've had a lot going on. My wife, going on a long time. And just like you said, is like there's always people out there worse off and have it harder. And I go to a Wednesday noon meeting, and there's a guy there who comes, and he's been able to come recently because he's been able to get a health aid because he's taking care of his wife with dementia.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
And I think about, like, I'm not that guy, right? I mean, I'm dealing with a wife who has a broken leg right now, right? there is hopefully the end to this where she gets back on her feet and starts being able to move around. With dementia, there isn't. Like, there is no end until
today is the best day.
Right. And today might be the best day you're having. So I'm able to, and this is the whole thing about for me going to meetings, is I'm able to put my life in perspective. Right. And again, it doesn't dismiss my problems, but it does put it in perspective to me. And I realize, you know something, I'm not dealing with that today. So there's a lot to this. And when it, listen, I talked about it. I needed a ramp, right? I needed a ramp built for my wife. And I immediately, I could have done it myself. I could build this ramp. I have those skills to build the ramp I need. But I just knew that if I had another skilled person with me, somebody who's more skilled than me, we could get it done a lot faster. And I did. I've asked for help, and we came. And, we had this ramp done in 4 hours, and it was all done. And so I've been trying to ask for more help. And again, just like you said, what happens if I can remove some of the daily stresses from my life, it allows me bandwidth to handle other stuff. And listen, I drank over stresses, right? I did. I drank stresses, made me pissed off. They made me angry. They made me fearful. Start talking about financial stresses. Oh man. And, and what I did was I didn't want to feel those things. So I drank over them. And today that's not an option for us. So we have to figure out other ways to handle it.
I wasn't capable of feeling that stress, especially money-wise. I was in total shutdown mode and didn't know what to do. Mm-hmm. So it was very difficult to consider giving up alcohol, because if I can't get through this now, how can I get through this without a crutch of alcohol? Which is where you need to build some other skills so you can manage that.
Yeah, and again, you and I grew up a lot. My wife and I had just had I thought it was funny. Now, I've told my wife how I grew up, but my wife grew up a very middle-class person, right? Her dad was a banker. As far as I know, she's alreys lived in a single-family home. Maybe when she was younger, she didn't, but I think so. But anyway, she asked me the other day, she said, did you guys, when you were growing up, did you have summer curtains and summer blankets? And I looked at her and I'm like, so you have no idea how I grew up. Yeah. Summer curtains?
I still don't know what that means.
That means heavier curtains in the winter, right? And lighter curtains, right? And heavier blankets and lighter blankets. I'm like, I just looked at her as much as we've been together for 25 years. As much as I've told her how I grew up, she can't comprehend how I grew up. And I'll just say this, right? And these are some of the stresses that we're talking about. I was just talking about some of the stuff going on politically and how farmers are getting hit hard with some of the tariffs and all. And one of the things that popped up that was really hit home with me was they talk about excess milk is turned into powdered milk and then distributed, right, and through USAID, AID, right?
Yep.
USAID. I grew up on powdered milk, right? I grew up on the stuff that they give away to countries in order to keep people. That's what I grew up on, That's how I grew up. And my wife's asking me if I had summer curtains. So anyway, so there was a lot of stresses growing up, right? And that's, again, so when I tell that story because not all of it, not everybody who grew up that way became alcoholic, but that was a little bit of my journey, of all those stresses and being very insecure and fearful and forget about money. There was no such thing as money security. We just didn't have money. It was just never thought about. But but today, today I don't have to. The stresses are different. The problems are different. But they're still there, and you have a whole bunch ahead of you, right? You have your children, your children haven't hit college age yet. You got to think about that.
It's this close,
right? I know you are. Right, you're that close to sending the first one away, and then that brings a whole nother bunch of stresses, financially and all that kind of stuff. So, and you got to figure that out. You got to figure out where do you get your help from. But you do a good job with that, right? You do a lot of self-care, right? You do therapy, you do that. You do a lot of...
I work my ass off on it.
You do. and that's asking for help, right? When you do when you go for therapy, you're asking for help, and you do a lot of that work.
I recently went for, I don't know if I talked about this on the show. I recently went for in-depth neurodivergence testing a couple weeks back. I traveled to the other end of the state. I live in a small state, so the other end of the state for you might be traveling across town. But for me, it's an over-hour drive to get to the other end of the state. And I sat for 2 hours of testing on ADHD and anything that you can think of, because I think there might be more going on than just ADHD, so that I can get a grip on how do I care for myself to manage my time in this world as effectively as possible. And I get those results this week, so I'll find out. And I've got an inkling of some of the things they're going to talk about, because I went into ChatGPT and asked about, they had me do this, they had me do this, they had me do this, and it rolled me through what they were looking for. And that was difficult to pick up the phone and set that testing up, because it's easy to look at and say, you're being foolish. Somebody else more deserving deserves this than you. There's nothing wrong. And then on the other hand, I've got to accept, what are they going to tell me? It was worth nothing if I just say, oh, that's interesting, and do nothing with it.
Right.
So and my therapist is a big believer in this. It's not that the labels define you. It's the labels can guide you to how you manage them. And everything can be managed.
Yeah, it gives you an understanding, right? I mean, again, it's like when I found out I was alcoholic. I mean that honestly. Yep. Like, even though, I mean, there's a difference. I talk about this a lot. There's a difference between drinking too much and being alcoholic. I mean, it's a totally different thing that happens in my brain, and I think most other brains, because I removed the alcohol from my life several times, and I still have, as some people say, I still had the ick. Yep. Right, I still had the ick of the alcoholic, and I had to fix that part of myself, and that's what you're talking about. You're talking about understanding yourself so that you could fix that part of yourself, and then hopefully that will make it so that you don't ever want to pick up that drink again as a solution, right? So that's the important thing, and for me, I mean, I've done tons of therapy. Last year I went back, I tried it a little bit. It wasn't working. And I think it was more the therapist I was working with than anything else. But, and I stopped it after 3 or 4 times. But I've done tons of it for years and years and years. I did a bunch of therapy. And today I'm able to use the 12 steps of Alcoholics Anonymous to sort of keep me in a place that, keep me in a place than thinking that a drink is going to solve my problem, right? That's number one. But also to keep me in a place where I can understand myself better. And I get that through the fellowship and going to meetings and talking to people. I get that sitting at meetings and listening to other people share and hearing my own problems there and hearing how other people have taken care of those problems themselves. So I do a lot of that. I've always said that there's a bit of group therapy in AA when you're sitting in a room with a bunch of other alcoholics. I just considered that. Matter of fact, I've never been to rehab, but I know people who have talk about they have to go to these group meetings, and it's sort of a group therapy. And I think I think AA gives us a little bit of that. So again, that's me asking for help. That's me going to these meetings. When I throw my when I throw my Cadillac problems out on the table, that's me doing 2 things. One is letting everybody know where I'm at, and number 2, putting it out there so maybe somebody can help me with it.
You're also providing somebody else help.
Yeah.
I heard between the lines when you got feedback that, hey, Steve always puts his shit on the table. That is help to somebody else who feels buttoned up and doesn't want to share. Right. And you're showing the courage to share your shit to maybe give somebody else the courage to be a little bit more open.
Yeah, that was exactly what this person was saying, right? Was that they don't do that, right? And that they find it and it helps them to be a little bit braver to do it, right? To me, that's not. I don't feel it's brave. It's just who I am. I just put it out there. But for them, it was important. And I'm glad. Like, I don't think, again, this is not, look at me, yay, Steve. This is, I'm glad I can provide that to this person. If that helps this person put something out there that's eating them up, then I that makes me feel better. And again, I love helping people. I've talked about it many times on this podcast that one of my goals in life at this point is to be useful. And just like you said with your neighbor, it's interesting. I got a neighbor across the street who owned a big mechanic auto place and just recently sold it. Still working there, transitionally. But I could tell that they're doing a lot more traveling and stuff because he's no longer the owner. He's now like a manager. And they just planted this new tree out front. And I'm watching. Seem like they've been gone. And we've had this hot weather. And I'm like, man, this new tree, it's a small little tree. I'm like, this thing has to be watered every day in this heat. And I'm like, I wish they would say something to me. I know them casually. I don't know them all that well. But like, I'd be happy to go over there and make sure that tree was watered every day while they were gone. Same thing, just like your neighbor, right? Like they just planted this thing, and if they don't keep it watered, it's going to die. And you're going to have to plant another one,
Yep.
And I know they had a couple of young guys over there. I don't know if they were relatives, and the guys are probably in their 20s. Like they're just not reliable, right? And I'd be happy to do that kind of stuff for somebody, because people would do it for me. And I had somebody ask me a couple of weeks ago, hey, you want me to come over and mow your lawn for you? Because they know what's going on. And I thought that was really nice. And I'm like, thank you, but, I'm Mr. Suburban. I have a tractor, and I could mow my lawn in 45 minutes on my tractor. That's not a burden to me, right? But I appreciated that thought that somebody thought like, hey, I'll come over and mow your lawn if you want.
And something tangible.
Right. So, and that's the other thing. I'll say this. As being someone who could at times could use some help, is that, and I've done it too. People say all the time, "Hey, if you need any help, let me know," and that's not the way to offer help to somebody. And I mean that, right? Because people aren't going to call you up and say, like I said, the way to do it is like, hey, I got a couple hours of available next Saturday. How about I swing by and I can knock off a couple things? And I've done that with people. I have a friend who's a widow, and I've said, hey, I've got a couple hours. What if I come up and put together a list, and I'll come up and I'll do stuff for 2 hours and knock some stuff off for you. That's the way to do it. Or I'll come over and mow the lawn, or I'll come over and do this, or I'll come over and do that. That's the way to offer help to people. And I've been trying to do that more and more as I've realized that that's important.
Stay to the end of the podcast. I just figured out the perfect way to end the podcast. You said something there. Actually, I want to shift gears for just a second because this just popped into my head. I've talked here a little bit about looking for good books and stuff. So I'm doing the audio book of a book I recommend for anybody who is an alcoholic or has an alcoholic in their family. How to Lose Your Mother, a Daughter's Memoir by Molly Jong-Fast. I'm a big Molly Jong-Fast fan. And this thing is the perfect alcoholics book that her mother, Erica Jong, the author, is an alcoholic, active, or at least she was, and is slipping into dementia. And Molly got sober at 17, 18. She's been sober for decades. And it just how she's trying to manage her mom's alcoholism and her descent into dementia. It is this feeling of what it is like for somebody who is in recovery and somebody who would qualify for Al-Anon, the codependency type stuff. It's fascinating to me. I have to listen to it and then I have to stop for a while because it becomes too intense.
Wow.
But I thought it was I wanted to drop that in there, that I highly recommend it to anybody listening to this. I think you'll get something out of it. If your politics diverge with hers, put it aside because I don't see the politics in it. What is one thing you'd tell somebody new to sobriety who's scared of asking for help?
I don't know. The meetings I go to, especially my Friday night men's meeting, we talk about it all the time, is that if you could get sober on your own, you wouldn't be wherever you are, right? If I didn't need help, I say it all the time, if I didn't need the help of Alcoholics Anonymous, I wouldn't go out to 3 meetings a week, right? I got other things to do. I wouldn't go. I mean, some of that I enjoy, the fellowship and the friends that I have there, but I just wouldn't go. So so that's the first thing I say is like, listen, if you could do it on your own, you wouldn't be here. So, and then the second thing is, I just tell people, especially early on, there's people who hate this saying, "Don't drink and go to meetings." I think it's a great bit of advice, especially for new people. Like, don't drink and go to meetings until you can figure some of this shit out. And because I know I needed to not drink and go to meetings for a while before I could figure it out, before I could really ask for help. That's all I needed to do. I just needed to not drink and go to meetings. And then slowly I was able to figure out, number one, how to ask for help. Number two, who to ask for help. Because that's a big thing.
That's a good skill to have.
That's a big thing, because if you ask the wrong person, it could sour you, right?
Absolutely.
And I have, my buddy Mike, who I help out and pick up and bring to meeting. He talks about that. Early in sobriety, he would be talking to the wrong people, and he soured on that. And Mike's been sober for 4 years, 35 years, and only got a sponsor and started really going through the steps 4 or 5 years ago. And part of that was that he was soured on telling people certain things, because he found that when he told certain people stuff, it would make itself around, right? They would blab it, right? So he became very closed in. And I'll just tell a little part of his stuff, because I know he's allowed me to tell it, is that he finally became comfortable of asking for help during COVID, when he was doing a bunch of Zoom meetings, and he met a guy from Cincinnati, and that's who his sponsor is. And he gets together with his sponsor almost every week. They read, they do a Zoom call, and it's worked for him. And he felt like, something? This guy doesn't know anybody I know. I could tell him all my stuff, and I don't have to worry about it, right? So that's what I would tell people, is that don't drink, go to meetings, find people that you trust, which you'll find, and then start to share and open up. And because this is a difficult disease for some of us. And again, there's a difference between putting down the drink and then overcoming the alcoholic thinking that us real alcoholics have, right? Like, why did we drink? What's causing us to drink? That's what I needed to find out, right? I needed to find out what was causing me to drink. And I did. And once I was able to find that out, I was able to address a lot of it. I was able to remove that obsession I had, that I thinking a drink was going to fix my problems. And then I was able to work on building a better version of myself. And that work goes on today, right? Because I'll always be an alcoholic. Like, it'll never change for me. So that work will go on, hopefully till the day I die. And I'm okay with that.
Well, I'm looking to see what you have to say. How do you accept help? Do you? Is it hard? Is it easy? Did it take you 30 years like Mike? Let us know, Matt at SoberFriendsPod.com, or on social media at SoberFriendsPod. Steve, thanks for helping me today.
Hey, good to be back with you, Matt.
We'll see everybody next week. Bye, everybody.
Hey, how's your sister, by the way?
Bam Bam?
Yeah.
Thanks for asking. She's doing a lot better.
Really?
Yeah, I'm really glad we took her out of that mental
Yeah,
institution.
that's good.
Yeah, I'm excited.
If there's anything I can do, You let me know.
You know what? There is something you can do.
What?
Yeah, you can come over today at 1 o'clock and visit with her.
Visit her?
Yeah.
What, are you kidding?
Why, you didn't mean it?
Of course not.
Why did you say it then?
You know, it was an empty gesture. It was something to say.
Guess what? You said it. Be there at 1 o'clock. But one thing, when you go in the house, look at her shoes before she calls your name. Don't look at her in the eyes. She'd love to see you.
Oh, Christ. I don't know how you take a statement like that seriously.
But you said it and you're gonna stick to it. And make her feel good.
Oh, all right.
All I want you to do is entertain my sister for 2 hours, and then you can go to your goddamn dinner party.
Better not be dangerous.
Be there at 1 o'clock,
I'll be
okay?
there. Gotta sit in a room with that nut?